last year in entrepreneurship, we provided over 5,800 one-on-one business coaching sessions. And that's right. And I suspect some of that 5,800 are right here tonight, so that's always nice. And 500. So we helped start up 532 businesses. So entrepreneurship is definitely one of the cornerstones of what we do. So this is an important piece of what we're doing here this evening, and the people that you're going to be hearing from. It's a very important piece of our work. Another very important and critical piece of our work is the partnerships that we have. And we are here, as you can see. We should thank Shopify. Shopify has connected with us as a new partner. Another important milestone is that on March the 8th, on Sunday, it's International Women's Day. So we thought, that's right, a lot to applaud. So very appropriate for us to be doing our event. I mean, what a good timing to talk about women transforming industry. And we can have many workshops and many conferences around women transforming a lot of sectors. But it's an important week, and we find it's very appropriate for us to be discussing this topic and be meeting women who have been trailblazers and who have really overcome barriers and done really well in what have been traditionally male-dominated sectors.
So 53% of women who begin their careers in tech leave for other industries, and 53% of tech companies have no women executives. It's something to think about, and only 5% of the 900 companies across Canada surveyed by Move the Dial had a solo female CEO, and only 13% of executive team members were women. So just wanted to kind of bring up those different stats before we jump into our question. So what does it mean to be a woman entrepreneur in a non-traditional industry? What does it mean for you?
All right. Hi. So to me, it means throughout your journey, people will try to tell you shouldn't be doing that, or maybe you should change fields. And to me, it's just driving through that and not listening to that noise and just going with what your gut tells you, what your passion is, and just going for it.
And I think that being a woman in entrepreneurship means to putting aside the fact that there are biases and going forward in an unconscious way, maybe because there are biases, obviously, but to go forward and just work as hard as everybody else, because adversity in business is for men and women. Yeah, that's my point.
I like that. And so jumping off of that, because you're saying it in a way where being unconscious kind of this idea that maybe you're, let's say, a minority in the business, gender minority as well. What are other skills that you ladies think are necessary to thrive in non-standard industries? And I know it depends on your role, the industry you're in, but for you, what has been some of the skills? Maybe they're soft skills. Maybe it's that ability to let things roll off your back, like Taïna said.
Yeah, for me, it's you have to have that passion, that ambition, that courage to keep going, going forward and pushing your business to as far as you want it to go.
Okay, so I have a few. First one is to be really, really comfortable with failure, because you're pretty much going to be doing something every day that you don't know how to do. You have to be really uncomfortable with just learning and or jumping in and doing it. You will most likely fail the first time, and it doesn't really matter because you learn from that, and that's what you're aiming for. The other thing is being able to be extremely resourceful, finding help, finding mentors, finding peers that you can converse with, because most of the really valuable know-how for succeeding in entrepreneurship is in those conversations.
The skill to me that is the more important one is sales. I think you got to be able to sell, but sell yourself, sell your idea. You need a new supplier that you need a good price with. You're only going to get it because you're good at sales. You need to sell yourself on social media all day, every day, so people see you. You got to do things differently, but it's really the skill set that I believe will actually make the difference between two entrepreneurs in the same business, is their capacity to sell their product and sell themselves on the platforms. Because the more popular you get, easier it is to get the funding, easier to get to reach other, I'm really French, like other réseaux, other networks that wouldn't be available for that. So work on your sales skills. I think that's the most important thing.
Thank you. What are some of the barriers that you ladies have come across advancing in your career, in your industry? Cheryl, I know you mentioned failure. I'm a big fan of failure, personally. I like to call it, intelligent risks, and then if it doesn't work out, you would have learned from it, hopefully. So what are some of the barriers that you've each come across in moving through this non-kind of classic industry, this world?
I think probably the first one for me would have been accessing the networks of people who have either been there and done that, or who are in your same position and want to do the same level and going on the journey with you. In the last maybe year or so, there have been more and more networks specifically of female entrepreneurs, and that's been tremendously helpful. When I started my companies prior to that, it wasn't available, so that was a huge, huge barrier.
I think for us, it was really on the financial side. When we started the business in 2009, we were able to just, go with it with our own cash flow. And then we had a couple of years that were a bit difficult. And that's when, we realized that we should have asked for help when we didn't need the help. And that was, I think, our biggest barrier, getting the help that we needed. We had these huge contracts that were coming in, and it was just such a stress to figure out how to get the help. To grow, you need the cash flow. So I think for us, that was the biggest problem.
One barrier for me, having done pure and applied sciences, then I went into engineering, I worked at Pratt, I work in a machine shop. I've always been in a very male-dominated environment, and just that stereotype, or that, I always say this, sometimes I feel like I'm walking into the men's bathroom when I go to a meeting, and people kind of look at you like, why are you here? What are you doing? Or, people come to the shop and they'll ask me, are you sure you understand what I need? Yes, I understand. So, it's that barrier for me that, I've been going through it since I'm 18, and it's always been, that discomfort, or that credibility sometimes that you don't get right away.
All right, one of the barriers that I encounter would not be necessarily in sales and business, it would be in mentorship. So in my area of work, it's very male dominated. That's why we're all here. So the mentors, like the people that are big bosses in my industry or in Connects industries that I can benchmark, they're all men. They're all older, and it's very hard for me to entertain for a long time a mentorship relationship with a man that is 50 years old and is married with kids. There is a major barrier. First of all, some of them cross the barrier of respect. I have so many really bad examples of men not staying in their lines, mentoring me. So it's, I think to me, it's to really find that mentorship that perdures in time, perdure, not le temps, sorry, that has continuity, I would say it that way, that has continuity into time.
And to jump off of this, the barriers, what have you done to kind of change that? Do you tend to seek out women entrepreneurs as mentors? How do you get around that?
Well, the companies that I want to, the people that I want to mentor me, they've all fallen to being men, just because, food distributor and stuff like that, that I'm trying to get into. So what I've done is that I've made a really strict structure with a contract and say, okay, well, you're mentoring me, blah, blah, blah.
Well, for the barriers that you mentioned, and you were saying, Susie, around asking for help before you need it. Can you dig into that a little bit? What are some of the things that you wish you knew maybe then that you know now?
Oh, wow. Where do I start?
That's a big question. Sorry. But in relation to what you were talking about
I think
barriers.
it's just, I wish we would have surrounded ourselves from the beginning with the right people, with the right organizations. We're now part of Le Réseau des Femmes d'Affaires. We're now certified We Connect. And it's, we started the business in 2009, and we only started doing all this in 2017. BDC has helped us out so much. Just finding the right partners for your business. I think I wish I knew that, from the beginning. We would have probably been at a different point right now. We would have probably grown a little bit faster than we are.
And that's it. Nobody tells you that. You don't have that information, right? So, we were starting the business and with our own money, and we were rolling on our money, and we're so happy. Oh, we don't need the banks. We're all good. And then that moment that you did need the bank, that's when you realize that I should have asked for a line of credit a while ago, and I should have surrounded myself with different organizations, like my sister said, that will support your business and will help you grow. Because or else, and that believe in you, exactly. So the right people that will believe in your business and that will help you. Like my sister said, we're certified women-owned business in the U.S. and in Canada. We work a lot with the BDC. We work a lot with Le Réseau des Femmes d'Affaires du Québec. So all these networks. It's only 3 years now that we really got into that, but we could have done that from the get-go had we had the information.
What does that mean, that certified women's business?
I'll let my sister explain that one.
So basically, there's a program called it's international. It's called We Connect International, and what they do is they come into your office. You have to have 51% of the business has to be women-owned. If you are a women-owned business, they do an audit and then they certify you internationally. You're put into a database, and all these big companies in the U.S. They have a lot of diversity programs, and the government likes that they give us a certain percentage of their business to women, to diversity, basically, to women-owned, to minorities, and they come looking for you, which is great because they actually want to do business with you. So that's what it is. It's called We Connect International, and it's great. It's a great program for women. Yep.
Maybe we can start with Cheryl, but before I go into the next question, in your respective industries, how are you disrupting or doing things differently? Like, we've already established that statistically you already stand out women. So how are you doing things differently in your industry?
Okay, I'll start. I have it. Okay, so the things that we're doing differently is that, before I started this coffee company, I didn't drink coffee. I didn't know nothing from the coffee industry. Nothing.
But you had a marketing degree.
I had a marketing degree, international business degree, whatever that means. And yeah, so I was, so what was the question again? Sorry. How am I disrupting
How are you
this?
doing it differently?
All right, so the way I'm doing it differently is that I had no experience, no background, no one in my family is an entrepreneur, and I just got out of HSC, so I was playing around with business models. That's why I'm so obsessed with business models now, and I just found a completely unorthodox way to sell the same thing that Nespresso or Van Hout or whoever is trying to sell to offices these days as a competitor of mine. So we're just doing things completely differently because I'm doing things like tech companies, because I studied with tech companies, because I went through accelerators, and accelerators taught us various business models, and I just benchmarked different industries and then applied that to coffee. So everything I do is different. We call it a CAF, like coffee as a service. It's like a SaaS. Nice. And it's really fun, and it's really cool because we sell coffee like a cell phone plan for businesses, basically. And so we're innovative in the business pricing model. And the ESC pod, the eco pod that we're bringing in, like all the coffee guys in Montreal thought it was the stupidest idea, but they're not laughing so much more 6 years down the line now. But so these are all things that are different. The equipment that we use, also nobody wanted to buy it. I bought it. I believed in it. And the way that we market ourselves as well. So I'm not a coffee dude. They're all dudes. So I'm not a coffee dude. I'm marketing HSC girl. So I'm doing things like a marketing HSC girl would do them. That's what I would say.
For us, as a machine shop, most machine shops machining is a very old industry. Machine shops are led by older men, like my dad, 7-year-old men that don't answer their emails, don't answer the phone, that kind of, like our dad. So for us, we looked at that and we said, we can offer, something completely different. We can actually have customer service where we'll answer you and we'll tell you when the parts will be ready. No, but what we actually focused on is marketing, because we realized that there's no machine shop that does any marketing. Most people don't even know what machining is. We go into events, we go into conferences, there's never a machine shop there. Machine shops just don't, it's just not something they do. It's just, they bring in the contracts, I machine a part, out it goes. And that's the end of it. So we realized that and So we're trying to literally put, Imbritech on the map. We want people to remember Imbritech. Some people have called us the machining sisters. So, it's just the machining sisters. So it's just
I like that. It's catchy.
Exactly. Just so that people remember you. And, a lot of our business is du bouche à oreille, like
Word of mouth.
word of mouth. Yeah, I speak French too.
Your translation.
So, we realize that if a person thinks that they need, there's a discussion going on, they need a machine part, someone will remember, oh wait, there's these two girls that have a machine shop in Laval, and that's what we try to play on for our business.
Well, there's not much to add, but because at the end of the day, whether we machine a part or somebody else machines a part, it's the same part. So we had to figure out a way to differentiate ourselves, and that way was basically to use the fact that we're two women in this business.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm actually starting a new venture, so I can talk a little bit about it, but we're not that far along. But we are actually going to be bringing new technologies for the way microalgae is grown and commercialized. And so one of the things that we're doing differently than how the current industry is in how we're actually growing it, being very, very sustainable, not using a lot of chemicals, being completely green, having a really low ecological footprint. So they don't really have this, the current way that it's being grown is often in open water, which is a super uncontrolled environment. Therefore, the product is very uncontrolled from a quality perspective, and it's typically fed with chemicals, and it's not super holistic or clean, I'd say. So this is what we're doing differently from the product perspective, and we're actually going to be doing not just the raw material manufacturing, but we're also looking at how we can commercialize it into new products, going into a direct-to-consumer brand. So we're at the exploration stage, so I can't really say which product it is or which category of product it will be, but we're building it from an audience and community-based perspective, so that we're going to be building an audience ahead of time, figuring out what they are interested in, and then figuring out what commercial opportunities will be best, what will be the best way to commercialize the actual technology or product that we have. So that's a little bit different than the way products are traditionally built these days.
All right, this one's for anyone who wants to answer. We touched on it a little bit with regards to barriers, learning lessons, failures a little bit. Anyone have a recent maybe time where you were trying something new and it didn't work out? You were talking about mentoring and support, and this guy kind of flipped it. He did the opposite.
Yeah.
Where do you seek out mentorship opportunities, either being a mentor or a mentee? How have you in the last while done that?
Well, I have a strategy. So here's my thing with mentors. I think you need 4 different types of mentors in your life. So I always try at all times to have a mentor that's somebody in the same industry as me that either failed or sold. So they're no longer in it, but they made a lot of money, or they failed really hard. I always try to have a mentor that has access to networks I don't have access to. I try to have a mentor that's more of a vigilante, like somebody that can publicly vouch for you and tell everybody how amazing you are. So my strategy for mentors is just to at all times have 3 or 4 of these type of specific mentors, and then just rotate once whatever happens, and then they no longer want to be my mentors, but that's how I do it. And then for mentorship, I go through universities. That's through cohorts and stuff like that. That's what I do. And social media works really well. Like if you tell people, reach out, if you need help, they will reach out to you, especially for an entrepreneurship, if you have a bit of a social media presence.
How are you finding those 3-4 mentors?
I stalk them.
Okay. Maybe LinkedIn?
Okay, so I posted something very funny. So I told you, I mentioned many times, I'm trying to get into restaurants and it's really hard. So the owner of Queue de Cheval saw one of my videos and he wrote to me, obviously, to offer me a job. And he's like, oh my God, you're such a good salesperson. You should come and work for us. And rather than being insulted, I wrote to him and I said, hey, if you saw value into me working for you, you surely can appreciate and see value into helping me out digging into the restaurant industry. So I booked a meeting with this guy so that he can help me understand why restaurants are not buying from me. But he's he's the typical type of guy that doesn't buy from me. So I'm just gonna flabbergast him with my smartness and amazing coffee, and hopefully he'll be a mentor and eventually a client. I've stalked people on Instagram too. It works really well. I swear to God, guys. It works really well. You just have to be soft about it, and then people end up, wanting to help at one point or another. Have I answered the question properly?
Absolutely.
I can guarantee there's no machine shop owner on Instagram or Facebook or anything or LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn either.
Oh, maybe LinkedIn, maybe. Throughout your career, throughout your life, you'll end up meeting different people, whether it's at school or in a job, and some people you'll just click with, and they'll understand your views, you'll understand theirs, and for us, I would say our father is probably one of our mentors, because whenever we always run things by him. He's been in the business for 45 years, almost 50 years, so. He's gone through it all. So, we often seek advice from him. I also have one of my mentors is an old colleague from Pratt & Whitney, Canada. So, I get her, aerospace views on things, and I bounce ideas off of her. But there's also a friend of mine that I'll always talk to her about business, and she's in finance, completely different field, but you just kind of discuss different ideas, and sometimes they have a different perspective, or when it's HR related, we're a small company, we don't have a HR department, so I'll go to my friend Vanessa, who's she's a CFO in a company, and she'll tell me how she deals with her employees and what she does and what there is out there, and who you should call. So it's just surrounding yourself with the right people, and your friend will become your mentor. Your father can be your mentor. You just have to seek something where they will guide you, that you probably can't get there by yourself. As far as mentoring, I've actually worked with the YMCA. With a program for girls from 14 to 16 years old. So I've actually mentored a few of them where they came to the shop, spent a few hours with me so they could see exactly what I do, and I made them visit the shop, and they can see that our shop is clean and it's not a dirty environment. And I explained to them what engineering is, the different types of engineering, because it's not just mechanical, there's just so many different, and often they just don't know that's an option for them. So that's something that I try to work with a younger crowd, I guess.
And I think just to what my sister mentioned about surrounding yourself, I think sometimes you don't need just that one mentor, but to have specialists in your life on everything, the financial, we have a great lawyer, we have, it's really important to just trust the people around you, know that you can pick up the phone and ask a question. And because you learn, we were kind of thrown into the business, we're still learning 11 years later. So I think it's just, you have to trust the people around you, really, have a nice little clique of professionals.
So for finding mentors or people who can support you and you can learn from, I usually like masterminds, which is typically a group of entrepreneurs who are at the same or like the next step ahead of you. And I also stalk them mostly on Instagram.
Before we jump to audience questions, we're already at that time, which is crazy. Can you maybe share some words of wisdom or any advice that you would maybe give to new women entrepreneurs or women wanting to start their own business? Any pieces of advice you'd love to give?
I'm the one that talks a lot. I think at the end of the day, just surround yourself with a really good support system. Make sure that the people that you deal with, are ambassadors for you. They're rooting for you. There's a lot of financial institutions, or like she said, a good lawyer, a good financial advisor. Make sure that everyone around you is really supporting you. So the one thing for me is a support group, and another thing I would say. If you have daughters, make sure that if they're interested in STEM, if they like math, they like I used to love Legos. So, right there, I like building things. So if you see that, encourage it, make sure that they know what opportunities are out there for them.
I'm thinking about my...
Sure. So I think the most important thing is to extend on what you're saying, surrounding yourself with the right people, More importantly, the people that you bring onto your team early on, whether they're consultants, freelancers, or co-founders, are super, super important. And even though early stage it feels so slow and you just want to get going, it is so, so, so worth it to make sure that you're not rushing into a decision just so that you can feel like you're moving forward. Get the right people, and make sure that the people who you bring on have done it before, because any misstep or early error really compounds. So I think just kind of going against that entrepreneurial kind of personality quirk where you just want to go and take a lot of action. Just be mindful at the beginning. It's a mistake that I see a lot of entrepreneurs make. But either be willing to take the mistake and change after. Like, that's the important part. If you make a mistake, you have to be willing to change after. Not just taking quick action and then just going in the wrong direction really, really fast.
And also, failure is normal, and it will happen, and you just gotta get up and keep going. Very important, because or else what's the point? So you just gotta, it's part of the business, any business. Anybody you speak to, whether they're multi-million-dollar companies or little PME, how do you even say that in
SMB.
SME, thank you. Like we are, you just gotta keep going, and if you've got the passion and you've got the drive and the will and everything will just follow.
And one more thing I wanted to add. Don't let anyone tell you can't do it. If you want to do something, if you have the drive for it, the passion for it, I would have stopped in my tracks back in college when a teacher laughed at me when I told him I was going to go into engineering. So, don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't do it. If you really feel that this is what you want to do and you have that drive, you have that passion, the ambition for it, don't listen to whatever anyone would tell you. If they laugh at you, they tell you can't do it. They say, oh, that's probably not a good industry for you to go into. If that's what you want to do, then you go for it.
Sorry, just a little thing. And at the end of the day, what do you have to lose? You only have to gain. You know what I mean? So you only have to gain. When you have that idea or whatever it is that you want to go on, just go for it. You have nothing to lose. And life is short.
That's good. Motivation.
All right, are you ready for it? It's very thoughtful. Trust your ability to learn. I just want to make sure everybody actually trusts that they're able to learn whatever challenge that they are facing. So I remember when I was a little girl, my mom was much stronger than my dad, built everything at home with my dad's direction type of thing. And then they would tell me, okay, Taïna, try to nail that nail. And then I would make it. And then the only thing they would do, rather than just, here, I'll come and I'll do it for you, my little girl, is just, no, learn how to do it properly. And throughout my entire life, my dad's a professor in university, so teaching is like his thing. So he taught me that I was able to learn anything I wanted to actually do. Many examples. I'm sure you guys are filled with examples right now, but it's trust your ability to learn and insist on learning things. Like, it is easier to let somebody do something for you, like, pay somebody to do something or have somebody else do it. But the second that you have interiorized, is that how you say it? Internalized, thank you. The second you have internalized the fact that no matter what obstacle you're encountering, you will be able to learn if you want to, if you're willing to, if it makes sense monetarily eventually, obviously, to learn how to overcome that thing, you will be confident, and no matter what the challenges are coming, there's, okay, whatever, I'll learn how to face that. I'll learn how to, obviously, educate yourself about these things, right? It just doesn't come up, but trusting your ability to learn is, to me, the most important thing to drive forward business endeavors or whatever endeavors that you actually have.
That's great advice across the board. We'll go to Q&A.
Hi, ladies. Thank you very much for the conversation. So my question to you is about finance, because everybody's concerned about money. Taking the risk of leaving a job or, a corporate job to start your own business. So what's the best advice that you can give for the concern of money?
I think one of the biggest way to finance yourself is sales. I think sales are the best way to make money, and a lot of businesses focus on how to get money before they focus on how to actually get sales to get me going. And obviously, it depends on your industry. Obviously, you will need investment, but I think that sales-driven businesses, I think that sales is the cheapest, easiest, best way to finance a business to do it. Obviously, you need some funding depending on what you do and how you are, but the emphasis is not put enough on learning how to sell and sell a lot and sell well. That's my talk.
In terms of funding, it's really important to shop around. There's so many organizations out there that can help you out. So many. You just have to start somewhere, shop around. There's not only banks, there's just, there's BDC, there's EDC, there's so many that will back you up. It's just that you absolutely need to.
I guess this is where Yes comes in. They can give.
There's a lot of organizations out there that will probably help out.
And have a plan. Make sure that you have a good plan to present. Be confident in what you're expressing. Be confident in what you want to do. But always have a good plan, a good financial plan, a forecast. This is where I'm going. Business plan is really important as well.
It also depends on the type of business you want to build and also the scale that you want to take it to. So on one end, if you want to build a business where it's a smaller business and it's revenue driven, not revenue driven, but basically if you want to be able to support a smaller team, then angel or VC may not be appropriate. And if you don't want to sell your company, then those are not appropriate. If you want to retain ownership, then there's grants and the government and bank loans. They're also much better because you retain ownership and control much earlier in the company. I'd also say that you can, depending on the product, in order to get sales before, if you're a B2B, you can get orders before, you can have a prototype and show proof of concept and possibly get orders earlier in order to fund the product. But if you're doing something consumer-driven, you can also do test marketing in order to determine demand online. And from there, you can then use that to, maybe for pre-sales, you can fund your production that way. So you can get the funding first, but you don't have to.
I want to know, what is your biggest pitch don'ts? So what should you not say or do or anything?
The biggest don'ts is to, every time I fail the pitch is when I had an experimented buyer that won't give me any information. So I had this massive restaurant chain owner, and then I was like, okay, oh my God, I have this call. I was so excited, and I'm a really good salesperson. And I'm like, so what are your needs regarding coffee? What pains are you incurring right now with your current suppliers? Like, no, you tell me what you do first. So I'm like, And then it's the worst. It was terrible. And I'm like, oh, we have smart connected machines. We'll be able, to do procurement. And then your staff is not going to have to do inventory. It's like, we have centralized warehouses. Nobody cares about that. You will have to deliver the coffee at our centralized warehouses. I'm like, damn it, so that's not working. So, every time you cannot get the information from the person buying from you, you're failing because you will not give the right advantages or the right angle to actually sell it to them. So just let them talk, please.
And do your research before. Again, stalking on LinkedIn, that kind of stuff. So sometimes, you do a bit of research on people. Right now, you can Google people and you find pretty much everything. So sometimes you'll get little clues and things where you can actually ask questions and you get them to talk, and then you just listen. And then you get the keywords, like she said, eco-friendly. And, and that's, you build your pitch afterwards on what they just said.
All right. Well, I want to thank you women for being here and talking about your amazing journeys and giving all this great feedback. And we will have time to chat about it. And I'd like to pass it back to you, sir. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We started off by saying 15% of new ventures really in Quebec are started by women. If this is the 15% that we're seeing, let's triple that. because your impact and what you're doing and the experiences and the approach and the courage and the know-how, that 15% is looking very promising. And it's definitely a floor, a very, very low floor. So thank you for coming, as volunteering your time, so graciously sharing, your experiences with us. Great stories, great Montreal stories, great Quebec stories. We can relate, I think, to a lot of what you've shared with us. We look forward to continuing to stay in touch with you. I won't say stalk, but we'll be insistent in making sure that you stay in our network, and the people that come to us, we can build on this partnership, and you have so much to give back.